So what is going on, everyone? This is Fabi here, and today I am going to tell you guys my first impressions of the Nexus 7 2013, or the second generation, whatever you want to call it. We are going to basically divide this thing into two separate categories. First of all, I'm going to tell you my impression, or my first impression of the tablet, and then we are going to go over to Android, because this is also my first Android device, so we are going to focus on both the hardware and the software in this one. So the first one is the fact that I feel like the tablet feels good and is quite premium. I didn't really expect this, but because it's actually some sort of grippy plastic here on the back, it's kind of rubberized, sort of, not really. It just feels super premium, and it's not like the iPad where they use aluminum and sort of super expensive stuff, but it feels nice, and especially for the price, I feel like you can't really ask for much more than this. The second one is that the battery unfortunately doesn't last as much as I would like. One thing that I encountered is the fact that it dropped 15% of battery overnight, and that was shocking to me. My iPad dropped 0%, but after I did some tweaks and I switched up my launcher, I actually used the Google Experience launcher where you can actually say okay Google and it will search something on the web. That thing dropped 15% of battery overnight, and keep in mind it doesn't actually listen to microphone while it's in sleep, only when it's on the lock screen. So the fact that the launcher written by Google's developers killed my battery so bad, that just seems like ludicrous to me. But overall the battery is not that good. You get a few hours of on-screen time, around 6 to 7, maybe sometimes even 5, depending on what you do, but it doesn't get close to what I get on my iPad Air over here, which is 15 to 16 hours of battery life no matter what I'm doing. That's something that I want to see on Nexus 7, which is something that I don't see now, unfortunately. The next one is the cameras. So we have one 1.3 megapixel shooter here on the front and one 5 megapixel shooter here on the back. Now, they're not good. That's what I want to say about them. They're actually bad. Don't even mess with them. If you want to conference on Skype, or talk to your family on Google Hangouts, that's gonna be fine, but don't use this for anything where quality would matter, because you will get very undetailed pictures with grainy colors and that kind of stuff. So don't bother using them for something where you need high quality camera. Now the next one is the dual speakers. I do like the fact that it has dual speakers. You can see here has one speaker here on the bottom and one here on the top on the back side. I do like that, but the fact that the sound is not rich, that's what I want to say. It's very unrich, and it also doesn't have bass at all. Even though it's surround sound, it sounds very, very bad because it just doesn't have that richness. It doesn't reproduce the sound like my iPad does. The next one is the display. Now, I like the display, the fact that it's so crisp, and the colors are so good. But I don't like the Android approach where they make every single tablet that's 7 inch and even 10 inches 16:9 aspect ratio. I don't like that because it feels just very narrow. It feels like it's too small. I feel like you can't really search the web with this because it's just too narrow. You can't really fit a whole web page like this, and when you turn it to landscape, it's just too small to display a lot of information. So I don't like the 16:9 aspect ratio for a tablet. Of course it's good for movies and that kind of stuff, but other than that, and even for games, a lot of games are made for iPads which are 4:3 aspect ratio, and they just look atrocious, especially some of them here on the Nexus 7. So that is a huge dislike for me. Now going to Android, the first thing I want to talk about is widgets. Now, I think that a lot of you expect me to say that they are super awesome, that they are the best thing ever, and that iOS should have them, and that there's no reason that iOS doesn't have them. Well, if you're here for that, you're in the wrong place, because I don't like widgets at all, other than a few, such as the one that I'm using right now, Dash Clock, which is the only one that I think is useful, and maybe the Mail one, but this one I've also got doubts about. I feel like widgets are just a battery consumption or battery hog sort of thing, and they also use your CPU, and they just overall make the experience worse. Now, don't get me wrong, some of them are nice because you do get information at a glance, but most of the time it's just the widget or the information that you get is so small and so slimmed down. I feel like that you're just much better going into the app, and it's so much easier to, for example, have Gmail here on your home screen and tap on Gmail, then to go over here and then tap, for example, on a Mail, and it directs you over to the Mail app anyway. Overall, widgets, they're not for me. I haven't really found one that was super useful and that made me just super happy or super psyched about widgets. They're just gimmicky sort of things that don't really do much for you, and they just distract you. Going on, I dislike the fact that I don't have physical buttons. Now, these on-screen buttons are not that bad, but it's just nice to have that tactile feel that I have on my iPhone or my iPad. Here I press this, but just doesn't compare. To me, I still prefer the clicky button where I just press it and I feel it and I double tap it and I know that I've double tapped it, whereas here it's different, I feel like, and I probably still haven't adapted to that, but I might in the future. But for the time being, I don't really like that. Now, talking about Android, I want to say that it's stable for the most part, but it's still Android. It still has that stutter from time to time, and one of the best examples would be, for example, when you hold it in portrait or in landscape and you turn it to the side. It takes 2 seconds, or about 2 seconds, to switch from portrait to landscape and vice versa. Why does that happen? So just for reference, I'm bringing here my iPad, and as you can see, we are going to flip them now to landscape. The iPad was absolutely instant. It was just instant. Whereas the Android tablet took like 2 seconds to flip. And I feel like that is completely unacceptable in this day and age when everything should be instant. And it's really a bummer that it takes so much, and there's no reason why they couldn't optimize the OS to do this faster. And there's also some other places where I feel like sometimes I'm just waiting for stuff that I shouldn't wait. The next one is the lack of tablet apps. There's just so few tablet apps that I feel like 99% of the apps I use on this device are just bigger versions of the phone app. So a good example for this is actually Google's own YouTube app. If you look at YouTube here on my iPad, I'm going to fire it up. You can see, I was just watching a video. Let's go to my subscriptions. You can actually see that it also shows you this bar. We can see more information. Here, if you go on the Android tablet, you get none of that. And you just have your subscriptions, and that's it. And this is Google's own app, and there's so many more apps that are not optimized, including huge ones such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the list goes on and on. In 2011, when they first launched their Android 3, tablet optimized operating system, I did understand that, and Apple used to make jokes about it, but I did understand it because they just released their OS, so developers didn't really have time to release Android tablet specific apps. Now in 2014, 3 years later, I don't think that I have any excuse at all to not have almost any tablet apps at all. I mean, there are some, for example, Pulse is one, Amazon has one, and there's certain others, but there's just so many huge apps that should be supported, and that should have Android tablet apps that don't, that work perfectly on the iPad, that have such a better experience on the iPad, and on the Android tablet, you just feel like you're using a phone and not a tablet anymore. And now the last one is going to be the ecosystem. This is something that is particularly important to me because my house basically runs on Apple devices. We have Macs, we have Apple TVs, iPads, iPhones, and we can just share all of our things, and it just works super easy. I can go downstairs, play games on my big TV, and just share things via AirPlay and that kind of stuff. On Android that doesn't work, and I feel like I'm robbed because I've bought so many apps on the App Store and I have to buy them again on the Play Store. Now I know that's not something that Android or Google can do anything about, but there's just something that I feel like it's an annoyance, and it's something that you need to take in mind if you want to make the switch. Now the last one is going to be the overall impression. I feel like Android is overrated, and guys, don't leave a comment telling me that I suck or dislike this video. Just listen me out. I feel like iOS does things better and faster for the most part, and while Android might be better at customizing, when I am out and about and I want to get stuff done, all I want to do is to open the app that I need to get things done with and do what I need to do. And with Android, the experience is not as good because most apps are not as good as on iOS. Their UI is sometimes messed up, and on iOS you just get a consistent experience, and you get also a tailored experience for both the tablet and the phone. Whereas on Android, you just get a phone experience, and if you want a tablet, you get the same phone experience. And that's just unacceptable, especially now in 2014. Google, wake up, this can't go any longer. Now talking about the Nexus over here, I still have a few days to decide whether or not I'm going to keep this. I'm not sure yet. This is definitely not as good as I expected it to be. I expected Android to be something different. I expected it to be better after so many people just told me and said all over the place that Android is so much better and it's miles apart from iOS. Truth is, it's not. They're both OSs, they both get things done, but I feel like iOS is just more elegant and gets things done nicer and better, at least at this point in time. But anyways guys, if you like this video, make sure to like it, share it with your friends on Facebook and on Twitter, and make sure to stay tuned for more content, and give me guys suggestions. Should I keep this tablet or should I return it? At this point, I still don't know, as I've said, but I might just keep it. I don't know, we'll see. Peace out guys, peace, have an awesome day, stay tuned.